And on the Newsmaker hotline right now, Montgomery County Executive Ike Leggett is on the line. And Mr. Leggett, thank you for joining us here on Mornings on the Mall. Quick question. You have proposed pay raises for police officers in the amount of 14.7%, for firefighters in the amount of 19.5%, and for other county employees at 13.5%. Those seem like pretty hefty pay raises. Can we afford them?
Yes, and let me make sure you understand that it's not 1 year. Those are multiple years. And then secondly, those are not all cost of living adjustments. That includes the reinstatement of what we call the step increases or merit increases. All employees are not eligible for that. And secondly, you need to understand the action that we've taken over the last few years that have really hammered our employees. I have recommended and implemented actions that are unprecedented in the county and far above anybody else in the entire region, the entire state, both not only Maryland, the District of Virginia. Here's what I've done. I've extracted over $30,000 for each employee of givebacks. I am the only county executive, the only person who's done the following. Some of them have done some of these things. No one has done all of them. We furloughed our employees. We eliminated almost 10% of the entire workforce. We eliminated COLAs for 4 years. We removed the entire pay grade, that is, the step increases. We eliminated and reduced a large amount of contributions for health, for retirement across the board. No one other than Montgomery County did all of those things for as long as we've done those things.
Fair enough, but let me ask you this: at my house, if I have to cut backs, I have cutbacks. I can't go into deficit spending. And even before these raises were announced, you were projecting a $134 million budget shortfall in 2014. If you don't have the money, how can you offer the raises?
Well, number one, we closed that gap, and we do not, in Montgomery County, we have to balance our budget each and every year. I closed that gap. In fact, over the last 5 years, I've closed $2.7 billion in budgetary gaps. This budget is balanced. And this is why you saw the positive action just the other day from the county council, because they realized, I had to, in fact, do this. Otherwise, the employees had an arbitration that would have given them more than this.
I get that you say you closed the gap, but then you added a bigger payment to all these employees, which creates a new gap, does it not?
No, I restored what the employees probably had already lost. And had I not done that, you're missing my point here, had I not done that, the employees were designed in court to get retroactive pay potentially of about 20% in 1 year. I don't know if you recall this, I stepped away from a negotiated agreement for which the county was obligated 3 years ago. I went to court, sued my own employees to say that I would not enhance those things. I would not do that. The employees then sued me, went to court and said the county executive, for all those things I've just described, did not have the authority to do that. He had negotiated agreements. He must, in fact, do that. Rather than to go through the entire court fight, I settled, and what you have before you is a settlement.
So,
had I not settled, the court later ruled that I was wrong. We would have paid 20%, not in 3 or 4 years, in 1 year.
So when Phil Andrews, who sits on the county council, when he says in the Washington Post that Montgomery County can't afford this and this is reckless and irresponsible, is he lying?
Yes. In fact, not only that, he's part of the problem. For years, when I came in, the previous county executive had increases of 42% over 4 years of the tax-supported budget. For the next 5 years, for the same budgets, 5 years in a row, I had a cumulative growth of 0. He voted for that 42%, 14% in 1 year. I mean, this is just simply something he's doing in order to enhance himself to run for county executive. You don't see any other officials in Montgomery County thus far taking his position, because once they sit down and look at the facts, they said, not only did I save a lot of money, but this is very wise to do. Otherwise, we would have had 20% in 1 year. The courts, on appeal, later ruled against all of the things that I just described that I did, that I was wrong. But the difference was I had already negotiated a new agreement,
Right.
thereby saving the county a huge amount of money.
All right, Montgomery County Executive.
Tell you that.
Montgomery County Executive Ike Leggett is our guest, and I got to pivot to another burning issue in Montgomery County that it really has a lot of our listeners annoyed, and that is the status of the Silver Spring Transit Center. It turned 16 years old. It's old enough to drive, and it's starting to look like, it's starting to make the Big Dig up in Boston look like an efficient government program. And we hear the contractors blaming the county and the county blaming the contractors. I want you to do something that politicians never do. I want you to tell us who screwed up on this thing and who's going to get fired.
Well, first of all, let me tell you, ultimately, I am responsible for the entire center. The buck stops at Ike Leggett's desk. I assume that responsibility. But in so assuming that responsibility, I was not prepared to accept a facility that I thought had some flaws. And so rather than to accept the facility, which we could have accepted a year or so ago, I decided to investigate further based on those cracks and potential flaws. As it turned out, those flaws were much more deep than we anticipated.
All right,
so
fair,
I would not open it.
fair
so
enough.
I accept responsibility for it.
Fair enough, but somebody was supposed to be monitoring that program. Did that person get fired?
We had an outside independent contractor, and we will probably be in litigation against the contractor. So what we did.
So there was nobody from the county, no government official.
No. Yes. We have people to watch the independent contractor.
Well, how come they didn't raise the flag about this?
Well, they did, and that's why we had the flaws, and why we stopped the project a year ago. When they raised those flags, we looked at it, evaluated, and then we brought out other outside consultants to look at it to verify that. So we did, in fact, raise it. We could have accepted this facility a year and a half ago, and no one would not have known about these problems until probably years down the line. So would have happened.
So when's it going to be done now, in your opinion?
I think that we have a plan that would probably, I can't give you the precise date, but they will start moving this summer to make the repairs. But keep in mind now that, what you heard about in terms of it being so hugely overcost, that's not true. It is delayed for clear safety reasons. It is my anticipation that the county should not and would not pay for the flaws. And we have an agreement now that the people are now going forward to fix the flaws.
All right. So the bag tax. Now, this is controversial in some quarters. I certainly am on record as not liking the bag tax. There is some movement underway among the county council to sort of put a limit on the bag tax so that you'd only be paying the bag tax, I guess, at stores that sell food, like grocery stores. Are you okay with that?
No.
So you think the bag tax should stay as it is?
Yeah, and
why do you feel that way?
There's probably some inconvenience for people to go into larger retail stores. I think if they have an inconvenient problem for that, they should pay the additional 5 cents, not 5%, 5 cents a bag. I think that's appropriate. We spend $3 or $4 million a year in trash pickup for litter around the streets. So those people who are not abiding by the law, they should in fact pay something for those who are subsidizing that. So I think that it should stay probably as it is. I think that it's been worthwhile. If you go back, for example, I was on the county council years ago, 20-plus years ago, when I first introduced at that time our whole effort for recycling. We had huge outcries for 2 years against recycling in Montgomery County. And because I put in a goal of 50% recycling. After 2 years, all of it has died down. You don't hear people now claiming about recycling.
But
Same thing when I instituted the measures for no smoking in restaurants. I think if we give this a little bit of time, and if firstly people are inconvenient about it, simply pay the 5 cents.
Our special guest, Montgomery County Executive Ike Leggett.
And we just want to follow up really fast on the bag tax you had mentioned. It sounds like the major rationale behind maintaining the bag tax, in your opinion, is that the county has a huge cost in picking up all of the litter. And I think one of the things that citizens really get frustrated about is that the vast majority of Montgomery County citizens don't litter. And yet you are now making all of the good, law-abiding citizens pay for the behavior of the dirtbags out there. Why don't we just go after the dirtbags?
Well, it's a little bit difficult to do that. And first of all, it's more than just to pay for the litter. It is also, in some way, to make certain that we are responsive to our environment. This is not a money maker for Montgomery County. I think it's a couple of $1 million. We pay $4 million or so just to clean up. And what we want people to do is to understand the environmental challenges that we face as a result of that as well.
All right. So, speaking of money makers, can I just talk briefly about traffic cameras? It's getting to the point, many people feel, where there are so many traffic cameras that it's really an undue burden on people who are just trying to go about their lives, conduct commerce, and just move around the county. Do you have any? I mean, do you hear from people who are complaining about the traffic cameras all the time?
Yeah, and I'm one of them because I've got caught myself on.
Well, I mean, is it time? Is it time perhaps to rethink because a lot of people think it's more about the money than it is about public safety.
Well, no, because if you look at it, the money for at least for Montgomery County has gone down substantially because we put out where the cameras are located, and once they go in initially, they may generate a little bit of revenue, but after that, people recognize where they are and really conform to the behavior. I now know that there's a camera in certain locations, and if I'm driving, I abide by the speed limit and make certain that I'm there when. But it's really not about the money. And, in fact, it has been reevaluated and has been restricted quite severely in the state of Maryland.
All right.
You can only have it at certain locations.
Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And